So this year is kind of a special year for me. 30 years ago, I started reviewing RC cars, and about 28 years ago, it became my career. And to this day, every product that rolls through the door, I get excited about it. One, because I get to check out a new product, and two, I get to share it with you. And some of those products are a little bit more special, and today we have one of those special products to check out. Yes, over my shoulder is the new Traxxas Sledge, and this is a really exciting product from them. It fits right between the Max and x-maxx, and it's just really cool that they're entering the basher Truggy segment, and they did it right. This thing is loaded up with some cool features, and of course I'm going to tell you all about it. I've torn this truck down so you could see the inner workings of it, and I'm going to go into a lot of detail. I also got an interview with some of the Traxxas guys to get their thoughts on it, so this review is going to be loaded up with information. And of course, we're gonna take it out for a drive. So if you're just here to see it run, you guys could of course skip forward, but I really recommend checking out what this truck has to offer. All right, this is gonna be awesome. Let's check out the new Sledge. This is one mean looking truck. It's an 8-scale off-road 4x4 electric basher. It runs on 4 to 6S and can reach speeds up 70 miles an hour with a few little tweaks. But the cool factor is Traxxas did not want you to have to repair this truck. Maybe you would have to replace parts because you drove it so much, but they wanted to build a truck that really wouldn't break. They didn't want you to go and buy all these aftermarket parts, chassis and chassis braces and such, to have a truck that you could just go out and send, bash really hard, just do extreme off-road action with. And from what I could tell so far, I mean, they really nailed it. There is a lot of really cool features on this truck, a lot of built up parts, and I think it's gonna last. I'm sure there's some guys out there that are going to test it, that are just going to go wild with it, and maybe something will happen, but from what I see, this is going to be one tough truck. Now let's start off with the body shell on here. It's got a wild graphics package that we see on a lot of Traxxas vehicles, a really sleek body shell all the way back, but one of the special features about this is it has 14 mounting points for the inner skeleton, so the body itself is built to hold up to bashing. We've got the roof skids on here. You can see all these little plates help secure the body to the lower cage, but this should hold up really well. That is another thing, you know, they didn't want you to go out and buy bodies for it, so they built up the body itself to hold up to your abuse. And just going farther back here, look at the large wing out back. We've got 2 mounting points with this upper strap, so this should help hold the wing in place. You know, you don't want the wing to rip off when you're doing cartwheels and stuff like that, so the wing itself is built up really well as being functional for a rear spoiler. Keep that rear end down. And now let's look at these tires. These are Sledgehammer tires, of course. These should really shred some dirt, but there are some more special features. They're mounted to a 3.8 wheel with a special new gluing process. I mean, you could kind of see some of the glue seeping out here. It may look a little rough, but they didn't want the wheel or the tires to come off the wheels when you're just ripping on the throttle with this thing. When you're launching it into the air, the tires grow. They wanted the tires to stay on, so they came up with a new gluing process. They also have a new insert on the inside that should hold up to the extreme abuse of 6S power and just, you know, again, ripping on the throttle and the tires growing. I like the tires on here. Now, check this out. No body clips, of course. That's the way Traxxas is moving with a lot of their vehicles. And the body mounting system on this is pretty awesome. So 2 clips on the backside, kind of like what we've seen on the new TRX4s. I'll just pop these. I gotta find it back here somewhere. There it is. And once you pop the 2 clips in the back, watch this, it just slides forward, which is different from the other vehicles that Traxxas has. And here is the inner skeleton. Look at that front tab on there. That is huge. So it doesn't pop out of the shock tower on impact. And there is that inner skeleton. Look at that. And there are the 2 rear clips. Now, what's special about the body going forward is, so let's say on the Max or even the Hoss, when you would nosedive into the ground, it would shoot the body back. Well, with the body sliding onto the chassis, sliding backwards right now, slip that back, pop it down. When you nosedive, the body is just going to go back. It's just pushing the body on. So I like that they made that change for this basher. And again, really easy to take this thing off. Just the 2 clips, pops up, slides out. Probably the easiest body to put on a Traxxas vehicle at this point. And now here is the chassis. Look at this thing. It is absolutely awesome. It has an aluminum plate chassis. When's the last time you saw one of those on a Traxxas vehicle? Well, it was the one that sticks out in my mind is the Revo, and the way they stamped this chassis just kind of reminds me of those days. That was a really nice looking chassis, kind of a piece of art, and the same with this one. It's been built to hold up to abuse. But before we get into the chassis details and stuff, let's start up front like we always do with all the vehicles reviewed here. And we'll start with talking about the suspension. Starting off in the center here, we have a 5mm thick 6061 T6 aluminum shock tower. And it's got a few mounting positions for the camber link and the shocks, but this is pretty much set up from the factory, so you don't have to worry about suspension tuning. It's kind of just there in case you maybe want to take this thing to the track. It might be a fun car to rip around the track with, but it's really set up for bashing. Mounted to it is this shock cap protector up top, and this is your body mount here, attached with 4 screws, so this thing isn't going anywhere by itself, but it does protect the top of the shock caps because we have a composite shock cap here, but it's a really beefed up cap. It has this really nice insert for the pivot, and then if you look, it has a 7mm nylock nut on there. And there's a lot of trucks that are in this class that just have a 3.5mm nut. They're using an M3 screw, but we have this large screw here, and so the shock pivot mount doesn't bend. It's got a really nice steel boss underneath it, and I don't think that's gonna go anywhere. So I really like that. But let's move down to the shock itself now. These are max size shocks. Love the max shocks, the GTR shock, and built pretty much just like a max shock. We've got, really thick shock shafts on here. The lower spring perch is screwed to the lower ball end. The ball end looks nice and bulky on here, and feels really good. I mean, they have a bladder inside, so you just get that nice smooth feel to the shock. The shock weight oil is 60 weight from the factory in the front, 50 in the rear, in case I forget to tell you about that later, but really nice shock. We know that the max shocks work really well. And now let's move down to the suspension arm. Check that out. It's almost like a racing Truggy style of arms. So we've got this really well-designed arm, lots of webbing, lots of extra, just little brace areas all the way around, but then they have this insert inside, and that helps firm up the arm a little bit more. And from what I could tell, looking through the manual, they're gonna offer different plates, different color plates actually. So if you want to go customize the look, same with the arm, they'll offer the arms in different colors, kind of getting into the accessories here. But you could go, and I don't know if Traxxas is gonna have this, maybe some aftermarket company will have it. You could put carbon fiber plates in here to reduce the amount of twist of the arm. So the arm itself, it is a little bit flexible from what I could tell. And again, that's kind of just to absorb some of that energy from impacts, but the arm looks really well designed. I like how it's just bulked up in the right areas. We have a large suspension pin in there, and the suspension hinge plates are pretty bulky as well. We've got 5mm in the front, and then the B, C, and D plates are 3mm thick. Now on the outside, we have screw pins, so that's really cool. No E-clips, no little screws to hold in pins. It's an actual screw pin with a nylock nut at the back side of it. And then up top here, we have fixed links. And for a basher style of vehicle, I'm fine with seeing fixed links on here because they're not going to move. When you're crashing and tumbling and cartwheeling, a tie rod style has the potential of the ball end to kind of slide in or move around. These aren't going to move, and they look really well bulked up, and of course they've got steel pivot balls at the end. Now moving out to the C-hub, kind of looks like your standard C-hub that you've seen on other vehicles before. It's dual shear, of course, so it captures that upper tie rod, but really well bulked up. Then on the outside, we've got a composite steering knuckle as well, and it's got a dual shear for the steering, tie rod out back, and what I really like is they've got steel shoulder bushings with a screw going down into a steel nut below it. And they've got their Traxxas blue thread lock on all the screws all over this Truggy, so it's not going to back out on you. So it should be a pretty solid setup. And that's really about it for the front suspension. Looks like your usual Truggy design. There will be sway bars as an option. Here is the front mount for the sway bar, and then they've got the mount on the arm as well. And there are droop screws in there, so you could go and adjust droop if you ever want to. Again, maybe if you got to go take this thing to the track. All right, while we're talking about suspension, let me just spin this thing around so we can talk about the rear as well. We've got really nice looking H-arms out back. It does have the inserts in there as well. Just again, really well braced where it needs to be. We've got the aluminum plates out back to hold everything secured, and then of course composite plates on the front rear so the pins don't slide out. But the rear hubs on this, nice and bulky. Again, dual shear, so the upper link is captured. The lower pin is a screw pin as well with a capture nut. So I mean, everything looks really good. The large max shocks, long travel out back, 5mm thick shock tower in the rear as well. Again, everything bulked up. All right, what do we got to talk about next? Let's talk about the steering before we move into the chassis. So kind of your standard Truggy buggy steering crank design. As you can see, they kind of redesigned the layout here from other vehicles that are on the market. So the Servo is on this side of the truck now with a steering crank, a Servo Saver steering crank. You can see the large spring down below. It is adjustable. And then everything is supported by ball bearings, nicely machined blue aluminum parts in there. You can see the ball bearings in the front for the Ackerman bar, really short little Ackerman bar there with an adjustment in case you need it. But it looks like it's a nice setup. Just solid link here over to the servo, and I'll point out the cast metal servo horn. So that's nice to see, not a plastic one right out of the box. All right, now it's time to start talking about this chassis. And I'm gonna flip it over really quick because you gotta see the bottom again. Look at that, that just looks really cool. And you can kind of see some of the features here already that they put into this to keep this thing solid. This is also a 6061 T6 aluminum plate. It's 3.2mm thick, and you can see where they went and stamped this thing. They've got a stamp up in the front to help brace up this area of the chassis, and they've got a stamp in the rear so it doesn't buckle the rear when you go and launch this thing over and over again. I mean, the problem we have with some other trucks out there is we start to bend in the center, or we bend back here where the chassis narrows down, or up here at the kick-up. And what they did is they put those stamps in to prevent that, but then they went and beveled the edges of the chassis as well, and they started all the way up here right behind the pivot, so it spans all the way back and you have a much stronger chassis setup. Really like that. It's also machined as well in a couple of places, so the diffs sit low in the front and rear. There's a couple other little machine areas as well, but really designed to be a strong chassis so you don't have to go out and buy an aftermarket chassis. Then they went and braced this thing up big time. So we've got this aluminum T-bar. It's a solid T-bar, and it's not a T for Traxxas. They did this specifically so it has a lot of rigidity in all directions. So front to back, side to side, they really wanted this thing to be solid. I mean, you could see all the other bracing as well. We've got a front brace that goes down to the chassis. There's even another little mounting point down below in the center. We've got this long chassis brace in the center with a center mount as well. So it's hitting multiple points to keep this thing solid. And then we've got these Y braces out back as well, so the rear of the chassis doesn't buckle. And so again, they did everything they could to keep this chassis solid and not bend. Let me spin it around now and talk about the battery tray. So it kind of looks like your Traxxas battery tray that you've seen before, and it really is, but they went and changed up the mounting points on here. Let me just pop this out really quick. That's really easy to access the battery. They've got steel nuts to hold down the battery tray, and there is some screws that go into plastic here, but this is a point where this could, possibly move. If you're bashing hard, the tray may move. You don't want that to happen. So they went and put the steel nuts in there. This battery tray will fit a variety of batteries. The most popular one you're probably going to use is the 5,000 milliamp Traxxas cells, or you could even fit a 6,700 milliamp 4-cell Traxxas pack in there. So you've got that room to play. Now, again, here, look how easy it is to pop in the top retaining plate. And there's a little Easter egg here that I wanted to point out to you guys. See this little hole, both front and rear? You could actually go and put a body clip in there if you want. So if you're gonna go and really send this thing to the moon, you're worried about the batteries falling out, you can put the clip in there and it won't pop out. I really like that they went and put that little extra feature into this truck. Now, I know I'm running long, but there is certainly a lot of information to go over. I know that's why a lot of people are here. Now let's dive into the drivetrain. So they built this up, of course, to handle 6S power. Some of the older cars that they have, like let's say the Revo, they've got smaller diffs in them, and that was really designed back in the nickel metal hydride days, and then power systems kind of evolved. So they went ahead here and built this truck up specifically for 6S, and the differential in here is absolutely massive. They've got a large ring and pinion gear, and kind of up next to a max. It's probably closest to a max if you're looking at all the different gears that they have to offer, so you know it's really well built up. The differential case in here is composite. Inside there, of course, are all metal gears, metal cross pins, and then they have the metal inserts so the pins don't walk through the composite case. Again, built up to last to 6S power. Massive outdrives on here. The axles are 5mm thick, so those are strong as well. They got the CV style drive shafts up front. There's dog bones in the center and then dog bones in the rear, but you know, we've got the rubber seal bearings throughout, so this is kind of a splash-proof vehicle. You know, they want you to be able to have fun in all types of weather conditions. There's 50,000 weight oil in the front. There's 20 million in the center, and then 50,000 out back. The center spur gear is, of course, metal. Another cool feature to point out is they've got rubber boots on the front and rear drive cups, and they are greased. So they wanted to cut down on your maintenance factor, and they put the boots on there, they put the grease on there, so you don't have to worry about maintaining that. It's just gonna hold up over time. The center diff is pretty much the same setup as the front and rear in terms of the makeup of the cup and the gears. Again, the only change is it's got a 52 tooth, I believe, spur gear on there. And with the 20 million weight oil, it should be set up really well from the factory for bashing. Let me just spin it around so you can see the rear axles, or you can see a nice dog bones out back, steel axles out to the 17mm wheel nuts. It is the Traxxas style hex wheel nut, so it keys into the wheels so it doesn't strip out. Same with the outer 17mm nut here. They give you a special hex wrench so it goes and keys into this. This is the one area where I wish they designed a little bit different throughout this whole truck. I mean, this is my only gripe with it. I wasn't able to use any of my 17mm nut drivers to fit in here. Only the composite one that they gave. It's a really thin wall that you need. So just be aware of that, you know, in case you wanted to go and use your tools that you already have existing, you might find yourself using the tool that they provide more. But that is it for the drivetrain on here. Let's move on to the electronics now. We'll start off with the servo. It is the new 2275 servo, and there are some changes to the servo from other servos we've seen from the Traxxas lineup. So now it has a larger tab on the case. They don't want that case to break, you know, when you're out there bashing and crashing and stuff. We've got an aluminum center section on here, and it is a high torque servo with metal gears. On 6 volts, which is what the ESC voltage puts out, it has, let me check my notes, 347 ounce-inches of torque. And it is actually 7.4 volt capable as well. So on 7.4 volts, it's 480 ounce-inches of torque. Again, the speed controller puts out 6 volts. So if you're ever to put an aftermarket system in here, you could go and bump, or a BEC, you could go and bump up the voltage for the servo to get that extra power out of this thing. So like the change there, now let's move over to the motor. We've got a 2000 kV motor to power this thing. It sits in this really nice cast cradle, and probably should have talked about this cradle when I was talking about the drivetrain. But it clamps down on the motor up top and really holds the motor. It's got 2 mounting points in the front, so this thing is really secure. And as you can see, it's got a mounting plate up top as well to go and put in a cooling fan if you want. And one other really neat feature is there's actually a little plastic plate that keys into the chassis down below, and that helps you set your gear mesh. So on the little tab that goes on the chassis, it has the gear tooth printed on it. So you go and bolt that plate onto the chassis, you slide your motor up against it, and then you have the perfect gear mesh. Again, really making it easy for you to use this Truggy. Now moving back, we have the VXL 6S that we've seen in the UDR. And what's really nice about this speed controller is it's got training mode, it's got sport mode, it's got race mode, it's got your easy start button, really easy to access. And I really like this system. I think what I want to get into here is this is a truck that you could really grow into. I mean, it runs on 4S, so if you have a Max and you want to get into something that is a bit more precise, you can move up to this and maybe put it into the training mode, you know, if you're running on 6S. So it's a very versatile truck, and I think it's going to be a great truck for people to get into that want to eventually grow into dashing, which is what this truck is built for. But like the speed controller on here, it's got their ID plugs, and then right behind it, we've got this massive receiver box. Inside is a TQI receiver, and that's really everything you need to know about the electronics. One thing I didn't touch on before, there is your body mounting plate in the rear. I mean, this thing is just massive as well. I don't think that's gonna break off. There are some mud guards out back, so the rear suspension doesn't get muddy when you're all-weather bashing. Really cool looking truck, guys. All right, let me show you what else comes in the box back here. There's your box art. Love the Traxxas box art. Comes with a TQI radio system. This is really cool because you can put the link module in and use the Traxxas app to see telemetry. It is telemetry enabled. You'll be able to check speed, RPM, and voltage if you go and do that upgrade with the link module and app. Really like that. Here are all the papers that come with it, your instruction sheet, your guide for what happens if the rig breaks. It's also got the exploded views in there, parts breakdown, even option parts. They have a ton of option parts for this car, all aluminum stuff, all the different colors. Comes with some decals. Here's your tools, you know, your long Allen wrenches. Here is that wheel wrench that I was telling you about. We've got this battery spacer. And then if you're gonna run it on 4S, you go put this plug in because you're only gonna use a single plug. And that leads me to what I'm going to run in this truck. So I got an Easy Peak Live dual charger to use. That's so I could charge up both of my 5,000 milliamps battery packs. I'm also going to bring a 4S pack with me, try that out. And then you're going to need some AA batteries to run it, of course. So you got to throw those in your transmitter. But this is going to be a blast drive. Can't wait to shred dirt with this thing. Let's head outside and nail the throttle. All right, guys, the Traxxas Sledge has been a blast. This is day number 4 driving this truck. I want to walk you through the drive because it's just really exciting. Early in the morning, sorry about the sun. Hopefully it's not in the camera. But watch this, nice, easy, smooth. Like a race truggy, basically. Steering is pretty good. A little bit of a bounce. The track is really muddy right now, so that might be a little bit of the bounce you see there, but really easy to control. Let's go big off this one. There we go. Nice smooth floating off of it. Love that jump. You know what I want to do though? This jump here. I never do this jump. Let's see how it goes. Whoa, I think I could get that tabletop. All right, ready? Let's do this. Get some speed up. Oh, and I landed it. All right, I want to show you how easy this truck goes over this jump. So smooth, you didn't even hear it land. Nice. There we go, spin this thing around one more time. Oh, easy, so easy. I noticed that the power of this thing is really good. The speed controller is nice and smooth, so you can really utilize the power. Brakes, plenty of brakes. Let's see if we can do a backflip. I haven't tried a backflip over here yet. Here we go. Roll it, punch it. There we go. Oh, up and over. Lots of power. All right, let's try this jump. Major error. Just a tiny little bounce at the end. Again, this is the pure stock setup on here. Nice neutral setup. Oh, so good. So precise feeling too. Plenty of steering. I like the steering in this truck. Don't need more torque, I don't think. Although the servo is capable of it. I mean, this thing is just so easy to drive. Look at this. Plenty of brake. Here we go again. Awesome, absolutely awesome. All right, they call this jump the Waterfall because there's a big drop off over here, but it is fun to jump RC cars off of backwards. All right, this is the direction we're supposed to go. Watch this. Oh, just fell off the top of that jump, landed it, so easy. Nice. Almost effortless. Watch this. Just boop. Just skip the top of that jump. Awesome. All right, let's go for the backflip. Ready? Roll it. Oh my God. That was so cool. So effortless. Here we go. Awesome. And just as a heads up to any BMX drivers watching or BMX riders watching, I always fix my divots here before I leave. All right, one more backflip. We'll move on. Ready? Roll it. Punch it. Yeah, let off. Just excellent rotation on that thing. All right, let's do the 6-pack back here before we wrap things up. Come around the bank. Here we go. Get my timing right. Little brake. Oh, just clipped the rear of the last one. Oh, sounds like I got a rock in the gear. No. All right, I said it before. I gotta do it one more time. I gotta get this timing down. Smooth. There we go. I keep overshooting that middle one. All right, you know what? Let's go for the big berm jump. Let's see how durable this thing is. All right, here we go, the big berm jump. Come through this gap here and punch it. Backflip. Oh, right on the nose. We're definitely gonna have to do a chassis check here. All right, this is one thing we're gonna talk about in the wrap up, the body. The body just keeps getting tucked behind the front bumper. There we go. All right, let's send it again. Come around and punch it.
Oh, so smooth. Hardly any bounce. That is a pure flat landing there. So good. All right, I'm gonna try a double backflip. Some more speed here. Double. Oh, I didn't rotate it enough. Landed on the nose. There's that caved in body again. We will definitely check the chassis after that one. But I gotta get this double. I gotta get the double down. I'm having too much fun. Can't go back just yet. Here we go, punch it. Double, come on. No, we're not gonna do it. Pull back out of that. I gotta get one more jump. How many times did I say I was gonna stop? I can't stop. Ready? Come on. Oh, didn't have enough. We're abusing this truck. You guys need to know what it could take. Here we go, ready? Come on, there we go. Nailed it. Now I'm really happy. All right, now let's head back to the workshop and wrap up this review. So cool, love it.
Okay, you guys know what time it is. It is time to wrap up the performance, talk about my final thoughts, and I am really impressed with this truck. I absolutely loved driving this truck. It's got a really precision feel to it, and some of you know that I came up in RC as a racer. I started racing when I was 8 years old, never bashed a truck, just went right to racing. So I love that precision feel of a truck that just goes exactly where I want it to, and a lot of that is because this is probably the most precise truck Traxxas has ever built. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but all the tolerances here are much tighter than anything else they've ever produced. I mean, there is no slop in the arms. So that translates to a really good handling truck, a really precise handling truck. So this truck basically went wherever I wanted to put it. And you know, some of the driving in that action sequence there is just me driving with one hand. And I was able to control this beast with a camera in one hand and the transmitter in the other hand. So it just gives you an idea of how this truck handles, how good it feels. Over the jumps, I mean, it just soars so smooth, so level. You just hit the front face of the jump, let off, and it does the rest for you. If you do hit the jump off camber, the TSM kicks in. It comes in really handy. I know, you know, some people don't like driving with it, and you could turn it off if you want to, but in this truck, it just all seems to work together so well for such a great overall experience. It's really a great package they've put together here. Steering, I think, is really good as well. I mean, it definitely has really good on and off power steering, just able to carve really tight corners on high traction surfaces. Some of that loose muddy stuff, those sledgehammer tires really grabbed, just got this truck turned. I think the steering torque of the Servo is pretty good right out of the box. And again, you can go bump it up if you want to, but for a stock out of the box truck as it's set up, I mean, I was just impressed. I'll say it again. Throttle, the throttle felt really good. Plenty of power on tap. Love the braking of it. I don't know if they did something there, but man, it felt really good. I was just able to pull this thing out of a nosedive if I needed to. Top speed is really fast. I mean, you guys saw it ripping around out there. I will do another follow-up video, just some top speed testing for you, but as you saw, it is just fast. On 6S, it is a monster. Now, let's get into some of the issues that I had with this truck. I did get a bunch of runs in on it. I mean, I beat this truck up. The first issue I have with it is if you do nose down, this body just tucks itself up into the front bumper. Is it a big deal? No, it just kind of looks wonky and you gotta go pop it out, which isn't too hard. You actually just pop the rear body clips off, slide it forward, slide it back, it pops itself out. Not a big deal. When I sent this thing off the big jump, the big berm at the BMX track, that was when I was finally able to put a little crack in the top of the body here in the front, right behind this front plate. Again, not too big of a deal. The big deal that I do need to warn you guys about is the battery hold down. down. I lost the batteries probably 5 times during my runs, literally ejected the battery out of the truck twice. Put those body clips in as soon as you get the truck. As the first run, just always use them. Once I started using the body clips, never had the battery pop out after that. But that is something I'm just gonna warn you guys about. Tell you, you have to do it because ejecting a battery means it could get damaged and you don't wanna go and damage a battery. Tires stayed on, the chassis. The chassis seems flat. I have a very slight bend possibly in the front. I didn't put the ruler all the way up front when I first got the truck, but I could just slide a piece of paper in right under the bell crank area. So, that's a pretty flat chassis there, I think. So it seems like the chassis is going to hold up. We won't have any bending issues. I augered this thing into the ground off that big jump, and maybe that's when that little bend happened, but the chassis brace seems nice and flat still. No tweaks or bends there. And finally, in cold weather, I managed to break the wing mount on it, and that was augering the truck backwards into a concrete jump at the skate park. I wanted to do some skate park action, but it was freezing that day, 19 degrees out, and it broke the wing mount. So, if you're gonna drive in extreme colds, watch that. Other than that, all my driving was in 40-degree and up weather. Smashed the wing mount a ton of times during that, the replacement one that I got, and no issues since. So just want to be honest with you guys, tell you everything I encountered with this truck, and that's it. This truck is awesome. It is so good to drive, so much fun. I can't wait to get out there again with it. It's such a precision feel to it, and as a racer, I absolutely love that. All right, guys, let me know what you think about the Sledge in the comments section below. I know I ran long on this video, but man, this is a really cool release from Traxxas. I want to hear your thoughts. While you're down there, I'll have links in the video description. Hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell. Throw the video a like, and we'll see you back soon for some more RC Driver videos.